welcome to another great episode of Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwibike, and of course, we're very so excited to have with us joining us our first day on the show today. Hello,
Thank you
Jane.
for having me, Henry. My name is Jane Aino. Thank you for joining us today on the show.
Thank you so very much, Jane. It's thrilling having you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, people, we'll be starting off today with our newspapers, and right after that, in the jiffy, would be our main conversation also for today. Please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very so honored to have with us joining us via Zoom, Lagos State, Nigeria. He is reaching us from Emeka Amadunago, journalist, public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Emeka, and welcome today. Hello, Emeka, can you hear me? I think we're having a little bit of a glitch there. Hello, Emeka, can you hear me? Good morning. I think Emeka cannot hear us.
Hello, good morning.
Okay.
Good morning. It's my pleasure. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Yes, thank you so very much for your time.
Yes, happy Easter to the viewer.
Yeah, thank you.
Same here.
Thank you so very much, Emeka.
Sure, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can now. So let's start off today with the first daily on our desk. We have a laundry list of interesting stories.
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
It's okay. We can equally hear you too. So let's start off today with the Punch newspaper. We have a laundry list of interesting stories here. On the bottom strip, you have Lagos launches a probe as building collapse, death hits 7. And beside that, we have Rivers Fubara's backers go spiritual. But Jane, our talking point for today is on the very top strip here. UK records 22,000 Nigerian asylum seekers. What do you think?
You know, before we came on board,
Yes.
I was actually mentioning that, could this be a precise figure that we have here? Because obviously, if you ask me, with the rate of travelers that we've had, people who have jackpot, so they say, from Nigeria to the UK, you agree with me that that figure, I personally have my own opinion. I don't think that's a precise figure that we have. If you ask me, I'll say 100 million.
100 million. Then that would
If
possibly
not
take
more
away
than-
the whole of the UK.
Of course, yeah, but looking at this, it should be something that should worry the government. But I realize that the body language that we keep getting from the government is, it's your business. If you like, stay there. If you like, go there. If we all like, go. That's what it means to me, because nobody seems to be talking about or seeing it as a thing of worry for a huge number of Nigerians who should be doing something reasonable.
And the most
in their
important
own
thing is
country.
the people on the reference here are skilled Nigerians who should be very beneficial to the country. But Emeka, I would love you to speak to this issue of 22,000. That's the figure we have of Nigerians seeking asylum in the UK. I'd love you to speak on that, if you may.
That's really shocking. Thank you very much. Shocking. When I saw the figure, was it 13,000 asylum applications from Nigerians? Now you have 22,000 applications in the UK. Where is the UK going to keep all those people? It's a small country, So it tells you that the situation back home is dire. It's a dire situation back home. And we have leaders who are sadly disconnected from the reality on the ground. When they talk about it, they complain. You can imagine the presidential villa planning, a solar grid of 10 billion naira, even while they are owing electricity bills of 294 million naira. Unpaid electricity bills. The other day, it was the deputy governor of Lagos State who said he was slammed with electricity bill of 29 million naira, and he was complaining. So what it means is that they can put the citizens in hell for all they care. But when, something or the other, fortuitous circumstances, make them taste a bit of the hell, they put Nigerians to every day. They begin to complain. And you wonder what manner of human beings are these? Lagos State government, if they slam a fine on you, they'll tell you to go and pay. There's no option of appeal. But an energy bill of 29 million was sent to the deputy governor, and he was complaining. Now, what I learned is that that solar panels have been installed, in his official residence. So there's a sort of a solar grid in his residence, so he doesn't have to complain about energy bills. Now, what kind of human beings are running this country? The sad thing is that, you see, the problems of Nigeria are not so.
All right, I think we are breaking there. It's okay. We can hardly hear him.
Okay, and it looks like the network trying to play a fast one on our server there.
Of course, but Jane, he is making a very important
Very
point there.
point.
How that our leaders do not care so much about us, but they're more concerned about themselves. The president is trying to install for himself a 10 billion naira worth of a solar grid. And he is the same person that had allowed for classism in the power sector. Exactly. Unfortunately, so if you can't take the heat, why
we have
would you
band
now?
A, band B, and
Yes.
then some people don't even have electricity at all, and yet they pay. I wonder if there's anyone not paying through their nose when it comes to electricity right now as we speak. And then he was able to get a result for himself. Did he at any point imagine what is happening to the general masses, how they are able to pay? We have hike in, premium spirit. We have electricity high. We have food commodity. So do we have the, I was speaking the other day and I was like, do we have what we call the lower class? Even the average, the average class, so to speak, I beg your pardon, do we still have them in existence in Nigeria?
The middle class is totally, wiped off, with the subsidies gone of the president, the floating of the naira. There used to be a style of life, the middle class has come to embrace. They hardly go to the marketplace everyone goes to. They go to our malls, to shop. And that created an ecosystem, an industry for that sector. Right now, the middle class is totally wiped because the 22,000 asylum seekers we're talking about, majority of the 99.9% are the middle class that can afford it, right? So if we have all of these people that used to be the middle class category in Nigeria, they are school owners, they are medium-sized business owners who have sold off their businesses just to relocate out of this country, seeking asylum in another man's country. It's actually a very bad situation.
I think we need to draw the attention of the government to the fact that it should be more worrisome to them how people are selling everything they have. Everything. You mentioned about school owners and all of this. And do you know that these middle class are the ones running the economy?
Definitely.
Because they're higher than the upper class and the lower class. So what will you say about someone who is a middle class, a man, and then he sold all his properties, everything he has, everything he can ever, or he has ever acquired in life, to travel out of the country to go seek asylum?
It's actually a very, very bad situation. Emeka, are you still there? We lost you. We had a little bit of a glitch there. Yes.
I'm here.
Yeah, so I'd love you to finish your thought on that so that we can move on to the next.
Yeah, what I'm saying is this. The success, every nation, right? The success of every nation rises. The progress. Every nation rises and falls on leadership. It is the quality of leadership. And too bad, Nigerians have been shortchanged for so long. And so we've now come to see injustice as a natural part, as a natural, system. You even find Nigerians who travel abroad still justifying the very things they escape from. And you wonder that, poverty is an evil that human beings must put hands together to destroy. Because it actually damages people's brains. It makes people not to think properly. And that is why the country is the way it is. So Nigerians will choose to be, cheated at home and then treated right abroad, while still justifying the wrong things they are subjected to whenever they're at home. And you wonder why people reason this way. It is because we don't have any honor. We don't have a culture of honor. So 22,000 Nigerians would rather run, to the UK to seek asylum and be subjected to, dehumanizing conditions than to stay in the country and demand good governance. These are the people you see on social media telling you, hey, okay, fine. If there's no light, go and buy a candle now. If you cannot afford solar, manage it now. Is it Tinubu's fault that there's no light? The roads are bad. There are potholes. Is it Tinubu's fault? I just feel like giving some a hot slap. Because you don't find that this person is not reasoning properly. How do you imagine being treated shabbily? There are some instances where I said, look, let me tell you, if I wanted to leave this country, I would have left as far back as 1988. 1988. My parents didn't want me to leave. They said, no, go to the university first, get your first degree, then you can talk of leaving. By 1989, when there was this anti-SAP riots in the nation, many of my friends ran away. They used that to seek asylum in Europe. I'm telling you about 1989. Check how many years gap. They used it to seek asylum in Europe. And, they got away with it, but I was still here. Obeying my parents, went to school. I came out, during the Abacha regime. At least, I'm telling you, believe this, an ambassador told me clearly that if I had problems with the government and I needed to be helped out of the country, that I should let him know at the shortest notice. But I didn't. I didn't take advantage of that opportunity. I'm not saying it for people to believe me, but I was a diplomatic correspondent there, So this thing, I'm telling you, was 1997. What I'm telling you, it was in 1997 that I got a direct offer from an ambassador that if I had any problem with the authorities, that he would be willing to help me to leave Nigeria. So, and then other opportunities. But I said, no, this is I can't leave this country, go to another country, and then start life all over again. In the 80s, yes, then I was still very young. If I had gone then, yes, I could have built up life then. But is it at this stage, I'll now start, and when you look at a lot of those people seeking asylum, a lot of them are in their middle ages, so they're maybe my age range. Some. Right. In their 60s. Okay. You heard the story some days ago. Some days ago, he was shot dead in Philadelphia. Yeah. I mean, you wonder, a 77-year-old man, if you see a 77-year-old man driving a taxi in Nigeria, won't you want to just yank him off that seat and send him back to his hometown? In fact, his people will organize a delegation to come and grab him from Lagos, that if it's a cause, or come back home. Somehow you at least you will get accommodation, even if you can't pay for rent in Lagos. We will get you one room in the family house. At least you'll be able to feed. How can you at 77 be driving a taxi in Lagos? They will arrange a delegation and force you back home. But here we are, a 77-year-old man was driving an Uber in the US. Unfortunately, when he picked the passenger, some gangsters attacked the passenger and shot him in the process. And there are many like that. Many Nigerians in their 70s, 80s, in their 60s, in their 50s, who are slaving away in countries across the world.
Yes, Emeka, it's actually a very sad situation.
You feel so sad.
Yeah. Very, very sad. Very, very truly a sad situation.
If there's
Yes.
another word beyond sad.
Yes, you know, and while we talk about that, just beside that particular story, Jane, you could just see something there. Japan, a federal government targets ghost workers in fresh payroll audit, and these are the same people who had left the country seeking asylum in other countries, but their name still remains with
In the payroll.
yeah, the payroll. So what happens usually is that they usually have this sort of like a compromise or something with their directors and say, okay, I will leave. Whatever comes in, we'll share, and so on and so forth. So it's actually a very bad
Of course,
situation.
I have seen situations like that. Where I know that some people will write a letter that they are taking a leave of absence, right, or study leave.
Okay.
And then they still get paid while they're away, and they don't even intend to return to the country.
Yeah.
So this is to say that we cannot just say there is any sector that is exempted when it comes to corruption, when it comes to, and then it is who is not satisfied that will resort to a means of, or an alternative means to find a way to acquire wealth. But then they always say that, when you don't have, or a hungry man is an angry man. You don't expect someone who is that hungry. It is not to justify the fact that it is reasonable of anyone to do that. This is just to say that all sectors, there's no sector you just, mention right now that you don't have one situation or the other that is not palatable.
Very true.
So as much as they see the government as not favoring them, they also want to do anything, to also be the government themselves that they call on or they point fingers at. So,
Very
it's
true.
always easier for people generally to say, oh, the government aren't doing this, they are supposed to be doing this for us. Yeah, because you're right. How about you? How are you?
Yes, of course. It's more about
I mean-
draining the swamp, if that is possible. But let's get to the Guardian newspaper. Jane, what stories do we have there?
Okay, for the Guardian newspaper, we have manufacturers groan as alternative energy gulp 1.1 trillion in 1 year.
Yeah, and that's actually a very sad situation. And I think it's very important that we explain, maybe if possible, break down what it is. What that literally means is Nigerians who cannot afford the classism of band A and band B, which favorably are those class that at least gets 10 hours of power.
Even the band A and band B,
Yes.
people are paying huge.
That's what I'm saying. So when people can't afford that, they resort to, generators, solar is becoming the in thing now.
And then not everyone can afford solar.
Very, very capital intensive. Most times when we talk about this solar thing, it looks like it's go and
that
buy.
simple?
No,
No.
very so expensive. Now, Emeka, I'd love you to speak to this particular matter. I know you have been a very strong advocate for alternative power with solar as one of those that you have asked that if possible Nigerians should maybe crisscross into. But looking at how much expensive it is getting alternative power off the national grid, don't you think this is concerning?
First of all, I'll say the major problem is that, like they say, if you keep doing the same thing the same way and expecting the same results, then something is wrong with you. You need to be dragged to Yaba Psychiatric, the nearest psychiatric hospital for evaluation. And that's what has kept happening. The national grid is dead. The national grid is dead. We should just accept it. States, President Bola Tinubu signed the Electricity Act, the Amendment of the Electricity Act in 2023, that says that states can now regulate power generation and distribution. Why do you still need the national grid? Enugu State government just, some days ago, just signed the third license, power generation license, became the first state in Nigeria to sign the power generation license, to issue power generation licenses. There are 3 now. It has issued 3 power generation licenses within the state. Not to talk about distribution. So it has taken over the functions of NEC. It has taken over from NEC, the National Electricity Regulatory Commission. In the issuance of generation, is it NEC? The Ministry of Power, I'm sorry. in the issuance of electricity generation licenses, So what are we still keeping the national grid for? You find that Germany found out that due to competitiveness in the European sector, many of its industries were closing down because it was becoming more expensive to produce locally. So they now began encouraging people to go into solar. So instead of subsidizing electricity, like what government has said, it keeps paying them, listen, why not subsidize solar grids here and there, so that people can migrate to solar? There are people I see who are connected to the grid who have no business being on the grid, because what is the consumption in their homes? It's not more than maybe 100 watts, just the size of a 100 watts bulb. So what are they doing on the national grid? Whatever power you have should be moved to the heavy industries, so as to encourage production. Now, when you subsidize solar, people can get, solar, connected to solar. They can get credits, get loans, payable maybe over 5 years or 10 years, depending. And then when you remove many people, you will now see that, the problem of non-payment of bills will be largely defeated. It will be largely defeated because that's a major problem. 2, this discourse, I think government has to look into their existence. Are they still relevant? With the state government taking over electricity, what do you need the discourse for? One disco covering 5 states? You don't need that. Let every state its own electricity distribution. Let every state retain the right to decide which disco will generate and distribute power in their state. The national grid, decentralize it, so that states can also generate power based on, today we have biogas. There are people who understand that there is a company that generates power from waste.
Yes.
I'm talking of waste in the cesspit. They generate power from waste. There are people in homes who are still using the LPG to run their generators. So people are now looking for alternatives. I understand that there are windmills now. That there are windmills that are, that are not noisy, just very small, but they generate a lot. So I think government should just open the market. Banning the importation of solar panels will not really be helpful. What you need to do, declare a national emergency on energy, pump in money from different sources. Encourage people to start producing locally, mass production of solar panels and other. Let people use different sources. And then we need to revisit the capping of coal production by former President Muhammadu Buhari. He was misadvised to cap coal production, and so that it will reduce our carbon footprint. Why hasn't President Tinubu thrown that agreement away? The corporates, China, US, UK, and the rest of them that are heavy users of coal, South Africa, they are still using coal. But the sad thing is that we have become such a subservient nation that it is foreign powers that tell us what to do in our own country. It is very wrong.
Well,
we have
very
coal
obvious.
in abundance.
Yes.
Very, very obvious.
With coal, with the abundant coal we have, we can actually power a lot of states. Kogi has a lot of coal. Enugu has a lot of coal. Just imagine, getting power, generating power with coal around those states. You can imagine the quantum of economic activities that can be achieved in those places. Jobs created and all of that.
All right.
But you see, Nigerian politicians will prefer that the problems remain so that they can be making money from it. Look at the presidential villa. Budgeting 10 billion naira only for a presidential villa. What is there? Is there a refinery there? Or are they producing cement there? What do they need solar of 10 billion naira for? they need it for? Some guys must chop now. Some people must chop somewhere along the line. And that's certain. Corruption goes into everything. Everything. So now President Tinubu is telling us your own, no? Now Nasabi, if you have light, if you don't have light, I'm removing presidential villa from national grid with a solar grid and presidential villa. So we, whom he has abandoned to the discos, won't we, like they say on the street, borrow ourselves sense? And also find a way to run away from the grid? That is the thing, because that's it. You are owing 294 million naira LC bill. You are owing Abuja Disco 294 million naira. You have not paid. They cannot come and cut power at presidential villa. But they can carry ladder and go to the area of poor men and cut their light because they are owing maybe 2,000. And they tell them that you have to come and pay 2,000 for the connection. You see, that is the certain in Nigeria. Two laws, one country, the rich and the poor. That's why you see people do all their best to become rich, to steal. Because in Nigeria, it is a crime. It's a crime to be poor. It's a crime not to have money in Nigeria. That's the thing.
It's a very sad situation, Emeka.
It's indeed sad, Henry. You can say that again.
Yeah.
If you are owing a huge amount of money, you are not paying, and you resort to solar, then what are you telling the citizens to do? No, what are you encouraging the citizens to do if you can do that? Yeah. And then you're obviously telling people, if they give you mass, exorbitant bill, abandon it. If you have a resource, then go for it. That's exactly what it means.
Wow. This, talks to the issue of leadership. We still do not have a leadership in the country because a leader should lead,
by example.
But when the president and his villa is owing the tune of more than 200 million naira, then what does he expect common me to do? It's actually a very sad situation. But just before we go for this morning on this particular segment, let's just talk a little bit about what's happening from the Vanguard newspaper. On the very top here, Jane, Unity colleges boil over illegal levies, admission, racketeering. It's actually a very sad situation, knowing that there's a country where all those who are making the laws here, most of them benefited from free education.
Of course.
Back in the days. And right now we have unity schools, and we're talking about federal government colleges, all the unity schools, spread across the country. It's a very sad situation. What do you think?
It's a sad situation when they paint it and make it look as if you're actually getting this thing free, but you have to pay huge.
Yes.
And then you wonder, as little as broom that you can get maybe 100 or 2 in such schools, you're being asked to bring all of these things, and then you pay triple. I can't say double, because when I hear of these things, it's so sad that I don't know. It's education is supposed to be free to all.
Yeah.
But when you now make it look as if it's free, and it's actually not free in the real sense, should I call this a scam?
No, it is.
Because you don't have the opportunity. The ordinary man on the street do not have the opportunity to go to school because they cannot afford it. You make it look as if it is free, and I get there and you're asking me to pay this amount of money, so amount of money, and then you now just get stranded. Like, okay, how? It's sort of make believe, because you'll be like, I am going there because I want to get education for free, because it is a necessity to all Nigerians. I mean, every child should go to school. And if you now make it look like this, and we have more moral decadence because we have all the children who are supposed to be in school on the streets of Nigeria, stealing and doing all sorts, and then they become what they shouldn't, the unbecoming. And then we go back and say, oh, then the generation we have today are this and that. How did you start with them?
Very, very true.
How did you encourage education when you have to make the people who are the downtrodden, the situation not palatable for them?
It's actually
not as education.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very lamentable. Emeka, I would love you to speak to this matter, especially with the fact that we still have about 23 million Nigerian children out of school. Do you think Alausa, the Minister of Education, is worthy enough to occupy that position in the first place?
You shouldn't blame Alausa because, like they say, charity begins at home. It begins from the home. If you have 22 million children out of school, who produce the children? Have the number of children you can train. It's very simple. I've been on that campaign. And some people will say, but you what about you? I said, look, you want to copy me, you will kill yourself. You kill yourself. Look, the point is this. I tell Nigerians one thing. We have to face the reality of today. Government doesn't care about you. That's the simple truth. You got to work out plans because you are a government on your own in Nigeria today. You provide your security, you provide your electricity, you provide your water, you provide everything. Even the road to your house. Government doesn't care. The day they land there is to come and ask you to pay. If there's a shop there, to ask you to pay shop levy or extension levy if your shop has an extension. So when it comes to education, you start from the home. Then you expect government to, deal with 22 million out of school children. How is government going to do it? When the very states and local governments where a lot of these people are not interested in finding solutions. President Goodluck Jonathan built 11 Almajiri schools in the north. Go there, they have been overgrown with weeds. Did you expect President Jonathan to go and pluck the children from the streets and force them? Well, some state governors are doing it. He built it, and the onus now fell on the state governors to follow up. Some state governors now in some states, you dare not, send your child, to any place during school hours. The child will be, they'll pick the child and say, please take us to your home. And the parents will be taken, will be arrested and taken into custody because education is free. Many states, a state like Anambra, Governor Chukwuma Soludo has tried to at least make things easy for parents. The same thing we hear about in Abia State. We hear that in Abia State there are enforcement teams that move around. If they catch any child of school age on the streets, it's trouble for the parents. And some other states like that. What we need to do is this. How many states have paid their own matching grants for universal basic education to the Universal Basic Education Commission on basic education, primary and secondary education? Education in primary from 0 to grade the last grade in secondary school, I think grade 12, which is the SS3, it's supposed to be free. But you find politicians, the money that is meant for education is looted. And so we have a mix of deliberate problems. You see, problems caused by us, the leaders and the followers. So if we need to get children out of school, we must face the reality. In the Southeast, there's a peculiar kind of out of school in the Southeast, I have to quickly add. It is not like what you have in the North. The one in the Southeast is that, young boys who should be in school, they prefer to go trading. They prefer to go and learn a trade or learn a skill, while they are still of school age. So government needs to, ask itself some critical questions. Do we now onboard, do we force them to remain in the school system until they are 16 and then start, begin from them to learn a skill? Or do we marry both education, formal education and skill-based education? Because a part of it is this Igba boy, this apprenticeship system, which has been acknowledged by Harvard University. But you find that these days, many young boys don't even want to go into Igba boy because we had the unfortunate incidents of what they call Okite in the Southeast. young boys looking for quick money, you know. But thank God that the governors are fighting back and dealing with that. In Anambra State, they are dealing with those native doctors, are just promising young boys. And young boys go and carry drugs, tie these charms to their bodies, believing that, they are going to go through. In some countries, you have a lot of our youths who are in prison, awaiting execution because they believe these native doctors. They were caught in those foreign countries. So what we're talking about is that we must be deliberate about education.
All right, Emeka, I think we can't hear you again. It's difficult. It's like your mic is around there. So, but let's just conclude on this matter. The issue of education is very paramount. A country, a society without educated children is a society that's destined to fail. And if care is not taken, that is where we might be working towards with the difficulty of children accessing education. Very so unfortunate. But that's where we would leave it for this particular segment. Just to let you know, Emeka would be here to take us on our main conversation. When we return, Tinubu summons service chiefs amid a rising insecurity. It's still Enterprise Morning. Please don't go anywhere.